is going on, everybody? What is going on, everybody? It is your boy Darion coming to y'all live with another video. It is the Silver and Black podcast. Shout out to all the subscribers that have subscribed to the YouTube page. If this is your first time ever being at our YouTube page, I would suggest that you subscribe and hit that bell button to get the latest news in all Raiders sports. But without further ado, let's get straight into the video. It is the Oakland Raiders 53-man roster quarterback edition of this video. Now, this is a video that I wanted to do because we will be breaking down all positions of the 53-man roster, and I really wanted to talk about next video where we be talking about the Broncos and the Raiders game preview. But without further ado, let's get straight into this video of the Oakland Raiders 2019 53-man roster at the quarterback position. Now, the Oakland Raiders had established a starter in Derek Carr, who entered in his year number 6, who exactly is going to be the backup in 2019. That is the actual question that we have for our Oakland Raiders. Now, the Oakland Raiders are a week away. Well, technically, we're less than a week away from the opening game against the Denver Broncos. You might as well say it's a week. It's almost less than a week in that time. But the team is finalizing a 53-man roster. Now, John Gruden and Mike Mayock had to make some tough decisions, in my personal opinion, to see who they released during training camp, among the favorite according to the fans. Now, one position that still has a few question marks in terms of the depth is the quarterbacks, and I don't understand why, but I mean, it depends on what happens with Derek Carr once he decides to be a part, once he decides to stay healthy, if he can stay healthy. It is clear who the starter is, but the battle of the backup position has been about as mediocre as possible. Now, Derek Carr has been battling through several injuries, like I said earlier. He will take a lot of them to get off the field. Now, however, there appears to be no security blanket behind him. Both Mike Glennon and Nathan Peterman got plenty of opportunities throughout the preseason to prove that they were worthy of a reliable backup, but unsuccessful. It's just when you thought the mediocrity couldn't get any worse, the Raiders go and claim DeShone Kizer off of waivers. I don't understand why we wouldn't go get him. That's just my personal opinion. But hopefully, none of these backups get to see the field this season because Carr stays completely healthy. But at the moment the position group leaves, it'll be many perplexed. Now, here is your overall review of the Raiders quarterback group. Let's look into it. Now, the starter, Derek Carr. At the beginning of the offseason, there was constant debate throughout the mainstream media if Gruden was going to move on from Derek Carr. There was no denying the struggles the Raiders office had in 2018, despite the myriad of factors involved in the struggles. Most blame, laid for Carr. But in 2019, it's going to be Carr a chance to silence all of his doubters and be a part of the Oakland Raiders' future. Now, the front office made it a priority to improve the offensive line and the weapons that Derek Carr had, because Derek Carr didn't have no weapons around him last year. I mean, Jordy Nelson was old, but the only person that was there was Jared Cook, and which is Jared Cook not there this year at the end of the day. But I can say this. He's being put in an excellent position to succeed now with Antonio Brown and J.J. Nelson and Hunter Renfrow and Tyrell Williams and even Darren Waller. So that's another reason, he definitely needs to be doubling down and getting himself ready for the regular season. But Carr remains a decisive topic with the Raiders fan base. Many loving him, many still remain skeptical. Personally, I doubt that Carr is able to reach a consistent top 10 status among quarterbacks. Despite that, he is fully capable of leading a franchise when he's given a capable roster, which is precisely which means to be working on it starting this. Now, if the Raiders have any hope of pursuing a playoff spot through the tough division and schedule, Carr is going to need to play at a high level. It has to play more efficient in the second year under Gruden. That feature should be expected, that Carr seems far more comfortable with the complex playbook that John Gruden brings in. Now, usually goes without saying, with his health, Mike is going to be a priority number 1 for this team, because there's nothing behind him. Uncertainly, we don't see what we got in our 1, 2, and 3 depth chart of the quarterback position. Now the reserves, we have to go into the reserves, which is Mike Glennon and DeShone Kizer. Now the backups have been employed at quarterback, but are about as confusing as it gets. During the preseason, Mike Glennon and Nate Peterman saw plenty of action. Neither proved they can ride the ship if needed in the regular season. For Glennon, he'll be the primary backup, rightfully because he's easier, a better passer, and gives more options than Peterman does. Glennon finished with a preseason of 491 yards while completing 67% of his passes with 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Now, Mike Glennon certainly has more positive moments during the preseason, but remains very vanilla quarterback that lacks mobility. Maybe this is what Gruden wants, but it is just what it seems like. We know exactly what we're getting from Mike Glennon, and previously, stops isn't everything promising when it comes to Mike Glennon. Now, the assumption that was either Glennon or Peterman will win the battle of the backup spot. Whoever lost it will likely get the candidate to get cut. When the initial 53-man roster came out, both Glennon and Peterman were on it. Both things have changed since then. On Monday, the Raiders placed Peterman on IR, stashing him while Gruden continues to try to develop him as an NFL quarterback. Peterman's reputation has some time in Buffalo where he has been documented, but Gruden always has some intrigue about him. Me personally, Peterman is a project and that Gruden is not ready to give up on him at the moment. But the question mark still remains at the quarterback position. The ability to extend plays and pick up yards with his feet gives the Raiders a dynamic they'll never get from Mike Glennon. But it's hard to overlook his issues as a thrower. Starting with his accuracy, let's just get into Peterman's accuracy. To the deep intermediate parts of the field. Peterman is only 5.7 yards per attempt during the preseason compared to Glennon's 8.0 at this point. But Gruden must see something no one else does in Peterman, and letting his pre-convinced notion of the QB cloud is definitely evident to the most. But speaking of notions, the Raiders made an even stranger move this weekend by claiming DeShone Kizer off waivers. I don't understand this either. In my opinion, he was a former second-round pick back in 2017, but a miserable start in Cleveland, and he was traded to Green Bay this past offseason. Now, after being cut by the Packers, this could be a Hail Mary attempt on a guy who Mike Mayock was at one point high on him in the 2017 NFL draft. Now, let's end up grading this group. Now, let's grade this group in my personal opinion. Now, Derek Carr is a solid B, but the guys behind him are not trustworthy options. None of them can complement Carr's play style if they do not get off the field and the playbook is limited. This is exactly the opposite of what we want as your backup. It's not surprising that the Raiders are thin at the quarterback position, as most teams still struggle to find a starter, let alone an actual backup. This could be curious, and it could spend much more roster space than a below average quarterbacks when we're all thin in those positions. This is just my personal opinion. It's unlikely that they will keep 3 whole seasons. It may not even last beyond this week. Kizer is a guy that Mike Mayock loves, who came out of Notre Dame, and when all said and done, it could just be Carr and Kizer for the majority of the season. But at the moment, at the depth chart position, strictly based off quantity and not quality, this group gives me a B-. Mike Glennon, he looked really good in the preseason, and so did Nate Peterman. They both look good in the preseason, but it's just not impressive once the regular season starts. It just, God forbid if Derek Carr goes down, then that's going to be some trouble. Mike Glennon had trouble in Tampa Bay. He had trouble in Chicago. Peterman had trouble with the Buffalo Bills and how he produced. And now Deshaun Kaiser, that has not proven anything in NFL since the 2017 draft. We just don't know how uncertain our backup quarterbacks are. But this is the Oakland Raiders 2019 53-man roster quarterback edition. Let me know what y'all think. Comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. Please let your opinions be in the comments below. You do not want to miss any more videos that's coming from the Silver and Black podcast. Comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. It is the Silver and Black podcast, and I see y'all in the next video. Peace.